Hello, 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 and welcome to Women Work Your Faith. My name is Sylvia Johnson, and today I'm going to be doing the Sunday School Review for Sunday, March the 19th. The lesson for March 19th is Gabriel's interpretation. The Bible basis is from Daniel, the 8th chapter, the 19th through the 26th verse. Our Bible truth: God's promises give hope for a better tomorrow. And the memory verse: and the vision of the evening and the morning which was told is true. Wherefore shut thou up the vision, for it shall be for many days. And that is from Daniel, the 8th chapter and the 26th verse. And that's the King James Version. So I'm going to go ahead and go over the lesson aims. It says, by the end of the lesson, we will explain why good decisions yield good outcomes, recall a time when we needed help from others, and visualize a better future in God. And so if you're like me, when you read those lesson aims, you were like, no. But, as I was reading and studying this, I can make that connection, I think. And I do see why good decisions would yield good outcomes, and I can visualize a better future in God. And I can recall a time of needing help sometimes with these lessons. So let's just get started. So in Daniel, we've been in Daniel now for the last few lessons, and we've really been looking at the visions that he's been having. And one of the reasons why I said before that I could make the connection is, and I think the Lord helped me with this, the theme on this Sunday school book, and I don't know that you all can see it, but each quarter there's a theme, and the theme for this one is hope. And it's very challenging when you are in what is not your preferred or ideal situation to maintain hope. And if you haven't done so, I encourage you to go to the Bible app. And I'm Church of God in Christ, and our presiding bishop, Bishop J. Drew Sheard, has a Bible reading plan. It's like 4 or 5 days. I think it's 5 days about hope. And I did that probably the first of this year. It's really good. It's very simple. It's not, he does a really good job explaining it. But after you read that and you apply it to what's happening here, in a lot of our situations, we're not where we want to be. And so it's hard to have hope. And it's because we're hoping in what we know or ourselves and things like that. And so that's similar to where Daniel is now, right? Daniel is in exile. And while he is like, I think, third highest in the kingdom, he is not where he wants to be. And his life is not how he intended it to be. And he is seeking God. And he wants things to change. And he's having these visions that are speaking of the times that are coming. And so, in spite of where he is and what he sees in these visions, we are encouraged, especially us looking back now, right? Because we're not in those situations. We're encouraged to know that God's hand was over all of that, and we should still maintain hope. So in this lesson, that was a really long intro. Hope you got it. In this lesson, though, Daniel has just had a vision. And his visions, the vision that we did before had some very interestingly described animals. And it's this vision that he's having is about a ram and a goat. And I'm not going to go into too much detail, but the ram comes up first and has some very distinct features. And then this goat comes up and challenges and attacks the ram and defeats it. And then this goat has very distinct features and does some very significant things. And so at the time of the lesson, when we pick up in 19, Gabriel is getting an explanation. I mean, not Gabriel. Gabriel is giving the explanation. And so at the end of the vision, Daniel heard voices speaking about how long these things were to go on. And then he hears a voice, and it says it's a man's voice, that tells the messenger to explain the vision to Daniel. And so the messenger is Gabriel. And so picking up in the 19th, it says, and he said, behold, I will make thee know what shall be in the last end of the indignation. For at for at the time appointed the end shall be. And we tend to think of that anytime we see at the end, we think in our fleshly mindset, the end of the world, the end of time. But remember that God created time and he set us in it. And so this vision that Daniel sees is for an end time. And that's what Gabriel is telling him. I'm going to make thee know. I'm going to make it clear to you what is exactly going on. So at the end of this indignation. And so the indignation is the horrible damage that he sees these animals do. And Gabriel explains that the ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia. And so these are two kingdoms that are coming after the Babylonians. And if I had a chart, because this is what helps me. I love history. I love Bible history. I love world history. Visuals really help me with this. So if you can find something with the timeline or something that shows the progression of these empires, it will really help solidify what's happening here. And that's one thing I love about the Bible, is that when you look in history, you see these things actually happened. And people try to tell you that it's made up and it's fictional and it's fairy tale, but then you see how in line with history it is, and it really helps solidify the truth of what's occurred. So he tells them that the ram that he saw with the two horns are the kings of Media and Persia, and the rough goat is the king of Grecia. And so he is talking about two empires and their kings that are coming up after the current empire. And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. And now I'm down to 22. Now that being broken, whereas four stood up for it. So when the horn was broken in the vision, four more came up. So there were four rulers that came behind that one. Four kings shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. So those four rulers that come behind the one are not the descendants of him. They're not the ones that should have followed after him. And it says, and in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full. So when they've done, it seems like the worst that they could do at the end of their time, it says a king of fierce countenance. So, well, I'm going to deal with his characteristics later. And understanding dark sentences shall stand up. And so what Gabriel has done is he has explained the progression of rulers that are coming in the new time, in the next coming times. And there are certain things that took place in that vision. So the horns on the ram, one was bigger, one came up later, but it was bigger. Those are all characteristics of the kings that are going to rule over these empires. So when you think of horns, think of rulers. And it's describing, anytime you see a new horn or a horn that does something different, it's setting itself apart from the other ruler. And so you see on the goat that another little horn comes up. And this horn, while it's little, meaning small, seemingly insignificant, he comes up and it says he's a fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences. And so he comes through. So a ruler that's not expected and not seemingly of ruler quality comes through on this goat. And it says, and his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. And through his policy also he shall craft to prosper in his hand. Oh, he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. So there's a lot of emphasis placed on this last horn from Daniel's vision. And his characteristics are very, well, no, they're not good. They're not good characteristics to have. They're not good qualities to have in a ruler. So if you're in a kingdom and someone of this personality and demeanor is ruling, you're looking at hard times for you if you're not in his good vision. And what you see in his characteristics, it says, so his power shall be mighty. So he has a strength, but it's not his own. He is not the one who should have come into. He's not the rightful ruler. Okay. And he shall destroy wonderfully. So the damage that he does is just abysmal. And your Sunday school lesson and your history books, and if you have Bible commentary, they will tell you that the ruler that Gabriel is warning Daniel about, or explaining Daniel about, is Antiochus Epiphanes. And he comes in, and I don't want to go into all the history because this is fascinating to me. I just spent like lots of time reading it. And so I encourage you to do the same. I'm going to try to stay focused on the lesson. But he did a number of things, but he really hated the people of God. And he really tried to wipe it out and replace it with Hellenism. And if you know anything about ancient Greece, you know that they were not a monotheism. And so they worshiped Zeus and the gods of Olympus. And his part of what he did was try to destroy the temple and to promote Hellenism among the Jews. And he wiped out quite a very large number of people doing that. And so it says he destroyed wonderfully, and shall prosper. And it's important to note that. So the damage that he did there during a time, he gained from that. He made progress in that. He built up what he was trying to do and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and holy people. And so he prospered. He was able to move further in that. People got behind him in that. And he destroyed and massacred a number of Jews. And so the people of God were a target to this ruler, which, as someone who is in exile and is faithful to God, that had to be hard to hear that. That had to really disturb. And he tells us at the end of this chapter how disturbed he was to hear the messenger from your God tell you that someone is coming and they're going to try to wipe your people out. And continuing on, it says, and through his policy also, he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. So we're talking witchcraft, some of those spell binding and things like that. Those things that God did not ordain for us to participate in, the wickedness that was rampant at that time, through his hand, those things would gain traction. And he shall magnify himself in his heart. So if you think of someone who has done all of this, right? You're mighty. You were able to wipe out a whole bunch of people. You're replacing their God with your gods, little g. And the things that you support and promote in the earth, they're growing. And you're making a name for yourself. And you were a ruler who never should have been. And now you've come up. You're somebody now. Okay, well, now it says he shall magnify himself in his heart. So now you're starting to think something of yourself. And that pride that comes with people who gain through wrongful doing, right? People who prosper in doing wickedness, that pride and believing that it is of your own strength and your own might, your own ability. That is something that happens a lot when people are able to do things by their own hand. And so he magnifies himself in his heart. He makes himself bigger. He makes his own stock go up in his mind. And by peace shall destroy many. By peace, meaning they didn't see it coming. So many of us have had an experience with someone that we thought were a friend, someone we thought was safe, a place we thought was safe, a place where we thought things were okay. And it says through that, it's deception, basically. So he says he will destroy many. He destroyed them through deception. they kind of like the serpent, right, in the Garden of Eden, through peace, right? You can tell by the serpent's dialogue with Eve, she didn't perceive there to be perceive a threat to be there, right? She's talking to him, he's talking to her. And then she takes what he says as truth. And voila, she destroyed many, right? And so that's that deception that a lot of wicked spirits have in the earth, where they convince people to trust, and then you've given up your life, or you've given up your blessing, your salvation, things like that, because you didn't perceive the threat that was there. And it says, and I'm in the 25th verse now, he shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. So he's been busy. And so he's destroyed many. He has deceived many. He has magnified his own name. He's made himself big in his own eyes, right? And he has been wicked and deceitful. He has promoted witchcraft and revelry in the earth. And, again, thinking pretty high of himself. So high that he was going to come against God himself. It says he shall also stand up against the prince of princes. So he's going to come against the Almighty. And it says, but, and it's very important. And I think that's part of visualizing a better future in God. Whenever these things happen, or whenever you see someone, and I've got a few examples I'm going to give you of other opportunities, of other times like this. Whenever you see these people or these spirits rise up and they want to challenge God, but that moment where God is going to turn it. And it says, but he shall be broken without hand. And so broken, again, is the visual of him ending. And without hand means it's not anyone that did it. The Lord brought him down. It's not anyone who fought and defeated, not like he did, how he went in and destroyed and witchcraft and deceived and whatever. It wasn't people that brought him down. He was brought down. And again, the Lord tells us, Jesus tells us, that God, you will be made humble, right? And one example I thought of, not in the New Testament, but in the Old Testament, in 2 Chronicles, and I hope I say his name right, Sennacherib, sent a messenger to the gates and spoke to Hezekiah's men. And I'm going to turn there quickly. And we're going to 2 Chronicles 32 and 14. And so I'm going to read it. In the 14th verse, it says, who was there among all the gods of those nations that my fathers utterly destroyed, that could deliver his people out of mine hand, that your God should be able to deliver you out of mine hand? And so he is challenging the men, and he's telling them, what, you believe in your God. You think he's going to deliver you. You praise your one and true and mighty God, whatever. Did you see all them people I just took down? You see all those nations we defeated? They all had gods too. And who is your God that their God couldn't win? And you think this God you got is going to be about something? No. And it's an example, again, of someone who, one, magnified themselves in their heart and were willing to stand and challenge God. And it wasn't just that they were going to stand and fight God. They were willing to speak and challenge the name, the integrity, the value, the worthiness, the holiness of God. And God doesn't let that stand. And so if you go down in the 21st verse, it says, and the Lord sent an angel which cut off all the mighty men of valor and the leaders and captains in the camp of the king of Assyria. So he returned with shame of face to his own land. And when he was coming to the house of his God, they that came forth of his own bowels slew him there with the sword. So you see that God turned the whole situation around. He defeated them and sent them back in shame. And then when they got home, they were killed. And so again, it's not the people that they were challenging. It's not the people that they spoke to blasphemously. God turned it, and he brought him down, and he was destroyed. And so it's a similar situation here. And I was reading about how Antiochus was killed or how he died. And there's some debate about that. But what is understood is that he didn't die in battle. He didn't die in the revolt. He just died. And so God took him down. And we are coming to the 26th verse where Gabriel is ending. And he said, "In the vision of the evening and the morning which was told is true. Wherefore, shut thou up the vision, for it shall be for many days." And so Gabriel tells him that this vision is accurate and it is coming, but it is not for a time. And he says many days. And he tells Daniel to shut it up or seal it or keep it. And our Sunday school lesson tells us that the vision is more helpful to us in the future than it would be to someone at that time. And I believe that to be true because God had already said these things would be, so they would be. There was nothing they could do to change that. And so something that I wrote down here, thinking about this vision that Daniel saw, God does not need our tactics in battle. One, with how he challenged each empire, or he allowed another empire to challenge each empire, and then how he would take down those who thought themselves so highly that they challenged or spoke in a blasphemous manner against him. His purpose was to turn his people and to draw others. And so the methods that God uses are not what we would do, right? We would be attacked and we would fight back in the same manner that we were attacked, more than likely. And so God uses, as the ultimate strategizer, different tactics to bring about his desired end. And that is one of the ways that I was able to visualize a better future in God. Because if we were allowed to do it, what Daniel would have seen was an endless line of rams and goats and rams and goats and rams and goats. It never would have stopped if it was up to us. But what God does is he brings it to an end. Our sin and our lust for power and our self-righteousness just runs rampant in the earth. But he uses his strategy and his power to bring it to an end so that he can have the desired outcome that he's working towards. Recall a time when we needed help from others. So this vision that Daniel had, most of us didn't understand it when we read it, and we had commentary and everything else. So it had to be challenging to him when he had it, and to know that it meant something, right? But to be able to have the messenger from God come and clear it up for him, while it didn't make him happy to finally see what it was, he allowed the mystery to be removed. And so that's oftentimes what we're going to have to do, especially now. Well, it's actually, especially at any time, right? Because events like these keep happening. And so in the world we live in today, some people are having visions. Some people are going back and seeing these visions and seeing how frequently they're repeated throughout history. And you're going to have to go to God and ask him for help. And your lesson tells you, you can also, go to your pastor, go to your missionaries and such. But being able to call on someone to help you understand what is happening and help you make the full journey to what is happening, right? And I have actually another example in here. In 2 Kings 6:16, it's Elisha. So Elisha is in Dothan, and the Syrians have surrounded him, and his servant is concerned, as any of us would be, right? I see the enemy, and they're everywhere. And that's the world that sometimes it seems like we live in now, right? I see the enemy and they're everywhere. We're surrounded. We cannot get out. There's no way out of this. My life is at stake. And Elisha prayed, says, and he answered, well, let's back up. And 15, it says, and when the servant of the man of God was risen early and gone forth, behold, a host compassed the city, both with horses and chariots. And his servant said unto him, alas, my master, how shall we do? And so the servant is like, well, how are we going to get out of this? And that's how we feel. And I'm sure that's how Daniel felt. How are your people ever going to make it? Right? How are we ever going to get through this? What is, I see all of this destruction happening. I've been in exile my whole life almost. I faced all these challenges. Like, where do we get out of this? And Elisha answers him, and he says, and he answered, fear not, for they that be with us are more than they that be with them. And he prayed. Elisha was good for praying at the right time. Just go back and read that. And he prayed, though. And instead of saying, God, strike them down, kill them all, or praying for an army to come trample them and beat them up in battle, right? Lord, give me a sword of fire so I can cut them all in half. No, he prayed and said, smite them all with blindness, take their eyesight. And he walks right up to them and leads them another way. The people who came to destroy him, the people who came to wipe him out, to probably cut him up and butcher and torture him, he walks right up to them and leads them another way. And then when the king of Israel is like, shall I kill him? Shall I kill him? He's like, no, he spares their life. And so God doesn't need our tactics, one, but two, we can have hope. When we feel surrounded, when we're in exile, as many of us exist today, you can have hope. God has a way out. He has a plan and he is working towards something. So with that being said, I'm not sure how long this has been. I don't see any comments, so I don't think I've missed anyone. But I hope I made sense of this lesson. It is challenging, and it's challenging for me. And I have to ask God sometimes, write it in my heart because my mind doesn't understand. So I hope that he is able to help you get this in your heart so that you can see what it is that he wants you to get from this lesson. If you did enjoy the lesson, pop me a comment down below. Make sure like, share, subscribe like you're supposed to on YouTube. And thank you. I love hearing from anyone. Be blessed, and I will see you next time.